Mesothelioma is a rare and aggressive cancer, most often caused by asbestos exposure. And for those diagnosed, the physical, emotional, and financial challenges can be overwhelming. Yet, in the midst of these challenges, there are stories of people and families who have fought back through the legal system and won meaningful compensation. These successful claims are not only about financial relief, but also about justice, accountability, and paving the way for others in similar situations. In today's discussion, we will explore real-world case studies of successful mesothelioma claims, understanding the details of each case, what strategies were used, and the lessons we can learn from them. Let's start with the first case. A shipyard worker in his late 60s who developed mesothelioma after decades of working with asbestos-containing materials. This individual had spent his career repairing and maintaining naval vessels, where asbestos was widely used for insulation and fireproofing. For years, he was unaware of the risks, and safety warnings were virtually non-existent. After his diagnosis, his legal team investigated and found multiple manufacturers who had supplied asbestos products to the shipyard. The attorneys filed claims against these companies, gathering strong evidence from work records, testimony from former coworkers, and expert medical opinions. The case was settled before trial, with the worker receiving over $2 million in compensation. This case highlighted the importance of meticulous documentation and the power of combining multiple claims against different responsible parties. Our second case involves a teacher who never worked directly with asbestos, but was exposed through aging school buildings. Over the years, ceiling tiles, insulation, and pipe coverings in the school's older facilities had deteriorated, releasing asbestos fibers into the air. The teacher developed mesothelioma in her late 50s, surprising her family and doctors because she had no obvious occupational exposure. However, her legal team traced the exposure back to the building materials installed decades earlier. They successfully argued that the school district and its contractors failed to maintain a safe environment. This case resulted in a significant settlement, ensuring the teacher's medical care and financial stability for her family. It also served as a wake-up call to school boards across the country about the hidden dangers of asbestos in older public buildings. The third case features a construction worker who had transitioned into a supervisory role, but still visited job sites regularly. He had been exposed to asbestos earlier in his career when working directly with insulation materials, but even years after switching roles, dust from ongoing renovations in older buildings continued to put him at risk. When he developed mesothelioma, his legal team pursued both past and more recent employers for negligence. The defense initially argued that the exposure was too long ago to be linked, but medical and occupational history reports proved otherwise. In the end, the worker won a multi-million-dollar verdict, showing that even older exposures can form the basis of a successful claim when evidence is strong. In another notable case, a woman developed mesothelioma after years of washing her husband's work clothes. Her husband had been a mechanic working with brake linings and clutches containing asbestos, and she was unknowingly exposed to fibers when shaking out and laundering his dusty uniforms. Initially, she didn't think she had a case since she had never worked in an asbestos-heavy environment herself. However, her attorneys built a compelling argument that manufacturers knew or should have known about the dangers of asbestos in their products and failed to warn users or their families. The jury agreed, awarding her substantial damages. This case was groundbreaking because it expanded legal recognition to secondary exposure claims, protecting people who were never directly employed in asbestos-related jobs. A fifth case involved a factory worker at an automotive parts plant. Over decades, he handled gaskets, seals, and heat-resistant components, all of which contained asbestos. The company had internal memos acknowledging asbestos risks, but kept this information from workers. Once diagnosed, The worker's legal team obtained these internal documents through the discovery process, which proved the company's awareness and deliberate inaction. The jury awarded a verdict in the tens of millions, both in compensatory and punitive damages. This case became a warning to companies about the severe consequences of concealing safety information. Another successful claim involved a power plant engineer who worked in facilities where asbestos insulation covered nearly every pipe and boiler. Maintenance work often disturbed this insulation, releasing clouds of fibers. Over the years, the plant's management ignored workers' complaints about dust levels and did not provide adequate respiratory protection. After the engineer's diagnosis, the legal strategy focused on eyewitness accounts from other plant workers, maintenance logs, and historical purchasing records of asbestos products. The result was a substantial settlement, which helped fund the engineer's treatment and provided financial security for his spouse and children. A seventh case we can look at centers on a veteran who served in the Navy during a time when asbestos use on ships was at its peak. He later worked in civilian shipyards, compounding his exposure. His legal team filed claims through both the Department of Veterans Affairs and civil courts, leveraging military service records, ship maintenance logs, and product identification. By combining these avenues, they secured compensation from asbestos trust funds, as well as additional settlements from product manufacturers. This comprehensive approach ensured maximum recovery for the veteran and his family. The final case study involves an industrial maintenance worker who developed mesothelioma decades after his last asbestos exposure. Initially, he hesitated to pursue a claim because he believed too much time had passed. However, the statute of limitations for mesothelioma cases typically starts at the date of diagnosis, not exposure. This allowed him to move forward with legal action. His attorneys built a timeline of his work history, identified specific asbestos-containing products he had encountered, and presented medical evidence linking those exposures to his illness. The case concluded with a favorable settlement, providing for his medical needs and allowing him to focus on spending time with loved ones. Across these case studies, several common themes emerge. First, successful mesothelioma claims require thorough investigation, connecting the dots between a person's work or environment and their illness. Second, expert testimony, whether from medical specialists or industrial hygienists, is critical in explaining the link between asbestos exposure and mesothelioma. Third, persistence matters. Many of these cases faced initial resistance from defendants, but with strong evidence and skilled legal representation, justice was achieved. Finally, these stories show that legal victories are not just about money. They are about holding responsible parties accountable, raising awareness, and preventing future harm. For anyone facing a mesothelioma diagnosis, these case studies offer hope. They show that even in the face of a devastating disease, it is possible to stand up to large corporations, government entities, or negligent employers and obtain a measure of justice. While no amount of money can undo the harm caused, successful claims can provide critical resources for treatment, ease the financial burden on families, and send a powerful message that negligence will not go unpunished. If you or someone you love has been affected by mesothelioma, it is worth speaking to an experienced attorney who can evaluate your situation and help determine the best legal path forward. These stories remind us that, with the right strategy and determination, it is possible to turn personal tragedy into a catalyst for accountability and change.